Hey team, it's James here. This podcast is a little bit difficult for us to publish. You're going to find out a little bit of a secret. This was recorded about 5 weeks ago, okay? So due to various reasons, we were focusing a lot on the 7-day restaurant marketing challenge and a few other things. We've been really busy, and so it's taken a while for us to get to releasing this podcast. And I've got to tell you, a lot can happen in 5 weeks. Now, the first thing that happened, this podcast came about because there was an article in the Sydney Morning Herald that described the online aggregators, the online ordering partners, as being the business partner that restaurants never wanted. And there was a quote from a restaurant owner specifically naming Menulog as the business partner they never wanted. They never wanted someone to come in between them and their customers, charge them commission, and not give them the customer's email address. So I thought, you know what, this is a great story. And we're really passionate about educating restaurant owners about the importance of owning their customer data and the fact that there are alternatives to paying 13%. I think that's really important. And I know that restaurants, when they discover this, they go, oh my God, why didn't we have this years ago? Because they've been paying a fortune for commission. And it's not just to Menulog. I think this is a worldwide problem. You know, you've got Grub Hun, UberEats, Deliveroo. You've got lots of guys in there, lots of big companies, lots of multi-billion-dollar companies who are trying to become intermediaries, trying to get in between you and your customer and extract value out of that. So this article came out, described the online aggregators as frenemies. And I thought, this is great. What we're going to do is we'll do a podcast, that really talks about it, because the article was good, but I don't think it went in depth enough. So we're going to come out and we're going to go through each of the areas in detail about where we think that there's a problem. And we recorded and we thought this is great. Then we received a legal letter from Menulog's lawyers, and it stated that they believed that there were 20 instances of misleading and deceptive conduct on our blog and in our podcast that we had done. Now, I take the veracity of our podcast and blog very, very seriously because we view it as an educational tool for restaurant owners. We think that it's really important that you are as close as possible to your customer. We think that you are less likely to be successful if you allow people to subsume your brand. That's what we believe fundamentally. And, we see it in the restaurants that we talk to every day. You guys aren't driving Ferraris. If all the restaurant owners drove Ferraris, then it'd be like, 13%, you guys can afford it. You guys work longer hours than lawyers and you earn a fraction of the price. And I just don't think it's fair for what it is that you do in society. You provide a place for people to come and, celebrate, commiserate, enjoy themselves. Restaurant, it's a French word, and I think it originally came from to restore the soul. I think it's pretty important, the work that you guys do, and I think it is really, really undervalued, and I don't think it's fair that there are people who are charging commission for something that ain't overly complicated. So anyway, 20 instances of misleading and deceptive conduct. Wow. Now, so obviously we had to go to our lawyer, and then our lawyer wrote to their lawyer, and you know what it's like. But I do take it. I take the veracity of our blog really important. I think it's most important because I want you guys to be able to believe what it is that we write. Now, they were threatening to take us to the ACCC for misleading and deceptive conduct. I really can't just have that hanging over my head. So we've actually self-reported ourselves to the ACCC. We've said these are some allegations that have been made against us. It is what it is. And I'm waiting to hear back from the ACCC. I don't think we've got too much to worry about. I think, you know what? Yes, I spin it a little bit. Yes, I might get a little bit hyperbolic. I might get a little bit passionate. But I think you guys need someone who's a bit passionate in your corner trying to help you. And that is fundamentally what we're trying to do with you. So we're going to wait and see what happens. There's enough lies and confusion out there in the marketplace. There's a lot of crazy salespeople who say all sorts of interesting things. I want our blog and podcast to be known as being really, really accurate. And I think, the feedback that I get is that, well, you guys tell it how it is. So if there is anything that we've said that's dodgy, please let me know. And I'm happy to correct it. We've made a couple of mistakes in the past. I can't think of any off the top of my head, but we have made mistakes in the past and we've corrected them wherever possible, wherever we have made mistakes. So, there's one thing I want to sort of home in on though. So they did say, they stated one of the counts was, it is misleading and deceptive to state that aggregators such as Menulog are a little bit old. Well, okay. Let's just have a little bit of a look at that. We have a competing product. We have Frollo, the free restaurant online ordering system. Now, there's a couple of things that are really different. If everyone who listened to this podcast signed up today to Frollo, I would make nothing, not a cent, because the F in Frollo stands for free. We've got restaurants who've been using Frollo and Forbes, its sister product, the free restaurant online ordering system. They've been using it for 2 years. Now, we may be giving them a call every 6 or 12 months to say, how's everything going? But you know what? We're not actually doing that. We're so busy onboarding new people with it that we haven't even gone back to the people who've just signed up for it and are using it on their own website. So it was meant to be lead gen. We're so busy at the moment onboarding people that we're not even getting back to these people, which I know is a little bit slack. If you do need some help, reach out to us, because you need to shout a little bit sometimes, unfortunately. One thing that I'm really passionate about is technology can change everything for a business owner. Technology can change everything for a restaurant owner. And technology is changing everything for a restaurant owner. So, and you know what? Hats off to the guys at Menulog, because there was a couple of really important things that they did. First off, when they built their online ordering system, they were, operating completely out there all by themselves. So they had to do a lot of hard yards, and I don't know how much it cost them to build their online ordering system. I suspect millions of dollars. And so for them to be able to provide that capability to you, I think, back then it was probably fair to charge a bit of commission because it was pretty new. Now, the other thing that they did, which I think is really cool, yes, that's it. I know it's shocking, but I think that there's something really cool that Menulog did. And they started to get restaurant owners and chefs to think about convenience for their customers, to think about online ordering, to think about restaurant e-commerce. So, and it's really tough when you're trying to bring, they were bringing a new product into a market. So everyone was like, why do I need online ordering? Those guys persevered. They probably spent lots and lots of money on marketing. And now more and more people are thinking about, you know what? It's easier than having the phone ringing off the hook all the time. It's better for the customers. It's more convenient. So why do I think that it's a little bit old? Well, the problem is that technology changes everything. And the biggest change that we are seeing in technology is that the rate of change that we are seeing is changing. It's actually getting faster. So whenever it was that Menulog started, and I think it was about 10 years ago, don't quote me on that, about 10 years ago. Now you got me second guessing myself. I actually stopped. I went to Wikipedia. Founded by Dan Katz, Leo Kamenov, and Kevin Sherman in Sydney, Australia, 2006. Let's cite Wikipedia for that one. So over 10 years ago now, they building these sort of things, getting developers together, coming up with the process, that was very difficult and very expensive. Now, we built it, and look, our menu manager, I think, is pretty sweet. I think it's a really sweet way to manage your orders in the kitchen. So, and the feedback that we've been getting has been really good for it. But the big thing is, it was so cheap for us to do it. Now, I'm not saying it was dirt cheap. We've probably spent about $100,000. But given the scale of the company, given the size of what we are and what it is that we're trying to do, we can roll that out for free. We use it as lead gen. So some people say we want Frollo, and they put it on their website, and because we're slack at following up, we never get back to them. We're meant to go back to them and say, would you like a website with that? Sadly, we don't. And we know, we've got people who, don't have a website with us who are getting 1 or 2 orders a month, and you think, well, I hope those guys aren't relying on online orders. But some of the people say, and we want a website with that, and we sell them a website. That's where we make our bread and butter. That's where we, and that's how we've grown. That's how we've grown to all of the countries that we're in now. But the fundamental thing is that the technology has changed massively, and this is what we can do. We can give that away for free. Forbes has done over $25 million worth of bookings. And we've got customers in, 11, 12, 13 countries. It seems to be growing all the time, which is really exciting. Our goal, we're really looking forward to when we're in 20 countries. I don't know how far that'll be, but, we're getting more and more customers in the United States, the UK, New Zealand, a little bit, and Australia, definitely Australia. And we keep getting better and better, but we've been able to fund what it is that we do to be able to provide these free tools. Now, so maybe, just maybe, that Menulog, the idea of aggregating all of those people, putting them all together, charging that commission and retaining the customer email address, maybe that's a little bit old. Why would you pay commission when you could do it for free? And I think that this is a really important thing, the fact that we offer ours for free. You can use Slack for free. You can use Dropbox for free. You can use Skype for free. Why can't you take orders for free? This is the amazing thing. And this is why I think it was a business model 10 years ago. It was a business model 5 years ago. Now, there's a lot of competitors out there. The price, the commission being charged should be going down, not up. It shouldn't have gone from 10% to 13 or 14%. It should be going down. So that's, they're the kind of things that make you think, well, maybe their business model is a little bit old. But what are the other things that make you think that maybe their business model is a little bit old? Well, for starters, so after we got the legal letter, which was kind of like, oh, that's a little bit out of left of field. That's a little bit unexpected. Well, what happened after that? So Just Eat released their financial year 2017 results. It was not great. There was a big write-down in the value of Menulog. It was about 40%, don't quote me on that. And so we did a bit of analysis, and one thing that came out of it was in the financial review, they said that in the second half of 2017, Menulog only grew at 5%. Now, that is not ideal. So over the year, they grew at 10%. For the whole year, their order volume grew by 10%. Now, our order value's grown 12% per month for the last year. So we have seen phenomenal growth. FYI, this is probably why we're not getting back to the people who are struggling with their online orders. That's probably it. And it was interesting. We only did that analysis about 2 weeks ago, and I sent an email out to the team, and our GM came back to me and she said, wow, James, you spend all of your time dealing with the restaurants, trying to work out what the next features are going to be, bug testing, all of those sort of things, and you kind of miss the fact that we're growing at 12% per month. And, because there's a lot of headaches growing at 12% per month, I've got to tell you. Our team's up at around 12, 13 people. I'm not even sure. And, we're looking to hire a few more as we continue to grow. So, we're growing. If their business model wasn't quite so old, then, maybe they'd be growing a little bit quicker. But lastly, and I think this is the really big thing in there, Just Eat is going to spend millions and millions and millions of pounds on building a delivery service for restaurants. Now, I don't want to say that there's someone who's already done it. I don't want to say that there's multiple companies who've probably got a pretty good logistics business running already. Let's not draw any comparisons with UberEats, Fedora, Deliveroo, Food Panda, any of those guys. But, just saying, maybe that's a little bit of catch up, just saying. Maybe they thinking that their business model's a little bit old. Maybe they're thinking that they need to spritz it up a bit to try and turn things around. Hey, just saying. So, what are we going to do? Well, how have a read through the legal letter. I published it on LinkedIn. At some stage, I'll probably put it up on the website at some stage, because I think, we're very big on our values here. So our mission is to help restaurants to find new customers and turn them into repeat customers. We got 4 values: fun, learning, ownership, and communication. They're really important to us, and I think that open communication is one of those things. That's why we publish the legal letter. I think, you know what? Hey, if I've done something wrong, call me out on it and I'll change it. The 20 counts, including that their business model was a little bit old, it's hard to work with that. I don't think there's anything specific there. So what are we going to do? Well, we're going to keep giving away Frollo for free. We're going to keep giving away Forbes for free. We're going to keep helping restaurants to find new customers and turn them into repeat customers, because that is what we're really passionate about. That's what we love doing. We love finding restaurant owners who've got a great product, they've got great food, great value, great experience, the 3 Gs of restaurant marketing, and helping them to tell their story and to make a meaningful difference in their lives. That's our BHAG, believe it or not, to make a meaningful difference in people's lives. And because restaurant owners work so hard, because what they do is really important, that's the little part of the world that we want to play in. That's the little part of the world that we want to make a little bit better. And so it's really important for us. And have a read of the legal letter. If you think that we've made a mistake, please let me know. I'm happy to make the changes. If you think that the flip side of that, though, is if we haven't told the whole story about the online aggregators, and we're talking about all of them here, if there are some dodgy practices out there, let us know and we'll call them out on it. We're not afraid to do that. And we're going to be we'll probably do a podcast at some stage about OpenTable. And there was a really shocking incident in Chicago over Valentine's Day, where an OpenTable employee was making a whole heap of bookings on Resi and no showing. So, and like that, I think is really tragic. When that's your business, to know that someone knowingly made bookings with no intention of turning up to try and get someone to come across to a competing booking system, like seriously? Like, that's really sad. And I don't know about the pressure that's put on their salespeople. I don't know about the culture within that organisation. All I know is that, the poor old Muggins, the poor old restaurant owner, he's the one with the, hundreds of dollars lost, thousands of dollars lost. Who knows? How quickly were they able to turn that around? So yeah, that's it. We're going to keep on doing it. FYI, we're redoing the back end of Forbes. It's a little bit old. It's a little bit grey. If you're a Forbes customer, you know exactly what I'm talking about. We're going to de-grey it. Let's get rid of the grey. We're going to make it as cool as the Menulog. No, I didn't mean to say that. I've got Menulog on the mind now. As the orders manager in the back end of Frollo. So give us your ideas on what you would like to see in Forbes. So without further ado, because I've rattled on for 18 minutes, my God, I can talk. Let's crack on with the online order frenemies, how online ordering is disrupting the restaurant industry as a whole. Hey, it's James from Marketing for Restaurants here, and welcome to episode 77 of Secret Sauce, the restaurant marketing podcast. Your online ordering frenemies, how online ordering is disrupting the restaurant industry as a whole.
Some restaurants are quiet, lose money, and the owner works 70 hours a week. Other restaurants are busy, profitable, and the owners work a few hours a day. What's the difference? They have a secret sauce. Join James from Marketing for Restaurants as he helps you come up with your recipe for restaurant success. Your secret sauce.
Hey everyone, welcome back. I hope we had a little bit of fun with our TripAdvisor story about The Shed being London's #1 rated restaurant according to TripAdvisor. So really does show just how shonky that algorithm is and how poor they are at detecting the fake reviews, which, you know what, I guess that was something that we always knew all along. There's been a lot of interest recently. A couple of weeks ago, an article came out, or a research report came out from Morgan Stanley, and it's been picked up by the press, I think for the first time, because it's a little bit interesting and it's starting to shine a light on the impact that the online ordering industry is having. And we've had a few inquiries to us from media, and I thought it would be good just to we've talked about a lot of this stuff in the past. I thought it would be good to put it all in one place so that people could really get an understanding of just what is at stake and how big the impact on the restaurant industry as a whole the online ordering companies are. And the thing that came out about it was that a lot of people are viewing these online ordering companies as frenemies. So kind of friends, kind of enemies. Now, I would say they're frenemies at best, deadly enemies at worst, often deadly enemies. And it was interesting, there was an article in the Sydney Morning Herald, so this is an Australian paper. It describes them as frenemies, the online delivery giants as business partners, and they're the business partner that the restaurants never really wanted, and which I think is really interesting, and it kind of nails it on the head. And there's an interview with Robert Galati, he owns a couple of restaurants in Sydney, a Thai restaurant and Fratelli & Co., and they use both Eat Now and Menulog. Now, the interesting thing is he's talking about them charging 16%. I haven't heard of 16% before. If you're being charged 16%, hit us up in LinkedIn or Facebook. I'd be really keen to see what's happening there. Obviously, commissions are rising. Menulog is forced to do that. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but that's quite scary, 16%. He said that he does get some incremental customers. So you'd be quite happy to get a new customer and pay 16% for that. I actually think that that's a good deal, particularly because you've got the 16%, but you're picking up on the fact that you haven't done any marketing, you haven't done any work to actually get that new customer. So this is a new customer that you've got for just the 16%. That's a good deal. But the big issue is that they're taking that 16% from his existing customers as well. So people who potentially would have rung up in the past, they're now going online, they're ordering through Menulog, and he's being charged the 16%. That's a big cost. But I think, I'm a marketing guy, so I like to think of it from a marketing point of view. The fact that he is bleeding his customer contact details to Menulog and losing access to them. So you don't get the email address. We're going to talk about this a bit later too. But without getting that email address, it's not really your customer. That's a Menulog customer. As soon as they put their email address in there, they become that customer. So it's a very interesting space. And I just want to slowly go through it and sort of break it down. We're playing with some big players here. It is quite interesting. So just to give you an idea, so in Australia, you've got Eat Now and Menulog. They're actually the one company. They merged together, was sold for $865 million to Just Eat. It was on if you understand finances all, it was a PE of 285, I think it was, or 265. It was a great valuation. It was an awesome exit for the Australian guys, but very expensive for the guys at Just Eat. Just Eat is now worth £5.5 billion. Grubhub is worth $6 billion US. These are big companies, and their play is to really interpose themselves in front of every restaurant in the world and really clip the ticket on the way through. So we're going to talk about some areas where this is fundamentally affecting it. Now, before you tune out and say, well, I don't do online ordering, so it doesn't affect me, just stop right there. Because an online ordering aggregator, so all of these guys, UberEats, Deliveroo, Fedora, Grab Food, Food Panda, Just Eat, Grubhub, all of these guys, they only make money when someone makes an order. Okay, so that's pretty obvious. But let's go that one step further. That means that they always want people to order. They want everyone to order every night so that they can make a fortune. Now, what they are doing is driving this dominant narrative about consumer tastes changing. Now, I'm not 100% convinced that consumer tastes are changing. There was an article where one of these online aggregators was coming out defending themselves and saying, in the past, pizza or food delivery only meant pizza delivery, and now, we're giving everyone a lot more choice. Well, I think that that's a load of garbage, because we've been eating Indian food for a while. We've been eating in Indian food for 10 years. It's always been available. It's always been there. What we've got is the fact that some big companies are trying to stick their noses into the middle of it. Now, the areas that we're going to go through one by one, we've got brand jacking, AdWords arbitrage, commission levels, domain squatting, lack of access to email addresses, variable commission promotions, vertical integration, franchise customers, and brand building. So, one by one, let's go back to brand jacking. Now, brand jacking, it definitely occurs in Australia. So we see Menulog and Eat Now being very aggressive in this space. I'd be keen to hear from other people in other countries about how the people that they're dealing with act. What brand jacking is where they will create a website that is generally, it's a templated website. They all look exactly the same. It'll have your menu on. It'll have some contact details in there. Interestingly enough, it won't have the phone number on it. And down the bottom, so you see these websites and it'll say powered by Menulog. That's interesting. What happens is that it will have your restaurant's name up there. The domain name, it'll be your restaurant, maybe your restaurant and the suburb that you're in, the hours that you're open, your menu. It doesn't say anywhere that it's actually a Menulog website and that you're not actually dealing with the restaurant. So what is happening is that customers will think that they're dealing directly with the restaurant. And we see this happen all the time. Restaurants talk to us about how when they've got their own website and they're using their own online ordering system, they struggle because people say, well, I am ordering through your website. And then they have to say, well, no, you're not actually ordering through the website. There's two websites. So they will create a website for you, even if you've got your own website. The big thing that you need to do is you need to Google the name of your restaurant. Do it when you're open and taking orders and see what it is that comes up. You might be quite surprised. And I know one of our customers did that while we were having this conversation. There was a conversation going backwards and forwards on LinkedIn, and he found out that he was being brand jacked. So these online aggregators are actually trading off your brand. And I think that that's really dangerous, particularly when the email address, as we've said, goes to the online aggregator, not to the restaurant. One of the things that really concerns me about these websites is there's no phone number on it. So now, why is there no phone number? Because the last thing an online ordering company wants you to do is to order direct from the restaurant, because then they don't get any commission. They also like it so that what will happen is they'll package up the order and they'll say, this is the order that we've brought to you. The restaurant thinks that a whole heap of marketing's going on, when in reality, all it is they've repackaged your own customers and sold them back to you, which is crazy bananas. The other problem about it is there's no phone number. So if you're doing bookings, they're not going to make a booking. They're not going to ring up and say, can I have a table for 5 on Friday night? And so the big question for you is, has your walk-in traffic, have your bookings declined once a Menulog or whoever it is who's put the website up for you, once it's gone live? Because that could be a significant decrease in revenue, and it's just bycatch. They don't really care. They're just 100% focused on getting the online orders. They don't want their phone number there because it would create problems. I see it as a huge issue. It's not being very customer-centric. There are some people who always are going to place their orders by phone, always. I personally hate it. I want to get an email that says, or a text that says, this is what you ordered, because sometimes the order's wrong, and it's really good to be able to go back and say, nah, I did order this, or oh, crap, I forgot to order that. And it cuts that whole argument out about, oh, I wanted a whatever, chicken vindaloo, and it never arrived. I forgot to order it, or no, hey buddy, I did order it and you didn't give it to me. Now, the second one that's really interesting is AdWords arbitrage, and we spoke to a little while ago about this with Kyle from Talk, and how so he used to work at Google, so he had a pretty good idea of how AdWords arbitrage worked. Now, what they'll do is they'll run an AdWord which gets their ad at the top of the search term. And the interesting thing is they won't go targeting Chinese food in a suburb. It'll be your restaurant name and potentially in a suburb. They're actually going after the customers who are looking for your restaurant. So what they'll then do is they'll then send this potentially to a brand-jacked website. The customer's completely unaware. Sometimes they don't even know that they're clicking on an ad. They click on it. that goes through, and there's a website. Up the top of it is the name of the restaurant. Hey, I'm dealing directly with the restaurant. They've got no idea that Menulog is in between this action. Now, in our online ordering platform, we're seeing the average transaction as being around $45. Obviously, it's different. We see Thai being a little bit lower, Indian, Chinese sometimes being a little bit higher. So if they're charging 13% on a $45 transaction, they're probably making around $5 for that. They're probably paying nowhere near that click. Now, not every click is going to relate in a sale, but you've got to play a long game in this. Think about someone who orders once a week and is spending $45. That's $2,000 a year. If you can get that person dealing with you, then look at the long-term value of that customer. That customer, if they stay with you for 3 or 4 years, that's an $8,000 customer. And they've picked them up for a $2 or $3 click. So that's AdWords arbitrage. Really quite scary. It doesn't run all day long, so you've got to really check when you're open and when you're actually taking orders. But highly profitable for the people who are doing it. Now, commission levels. This is a massive issue. So the average profit level for a lot of restaurants is around 3%. 13% is something that is just simply unsustainable, I think. And this is one of the reasons why I think that restaurant owners are saying that it has never been harder to run a restaurant than it has been right now. Particularly, and you have to look at the effect that online ordering has. So if you're not doing online ordering, then potentially you're getting less walk-ins coming into your restaurant. If you are doing online ordering with one of these online aggregators, then of course it creates issues for you because you're now losing 13% off the top, which it's going to be very, very difficult for people to be able to do that, to be able to be profitable when they're losing 13% off the top. And we're going to talk about the way that some restaurants are trying to handle that, but none of the solutions are really good. They're not good for the consumer and they're not good for the restaurant either. Now, there's something that's really interesting, which I'm not sure if all of the online aggregators do, but I think it happens. This is kind of the thing that Menulog is sort of trying to drive. Because you've got to remember, they're a consumer company. They're very interested in driving people to order online. The restaurant is just for order fulfillment, and that goes across the whole online ordering space. These guys are just interested in you for order fulfillment. They want someone to order from you only because that means that they're making an order. They're not really that fussed where the order comes from. So picture this scenario. You're new to the restaurant industry and you're decided that you're going to open a restaurant. You might have a payout from work, or you might have saved up some money, or you might have mortgaged your house. God forbid, that makes it quite scary, this story. Now, you spend 3 months doing fit out, hiring people, getting the menu right, doing all of those sort of things. And then it's opening day and there's no one there, or it's really quite quiet. And we ate in a restaurant on Saturday night that had that exact story. Been open for 3 weeks, quite quiet. She thought it was exciting because she thought that because they were quite busy, it was because I'd come in to talk to them. It wasn't related to me. It was, hopefully it's picking up for them. But the first week, you find out all of the problems in the kitchen and front of house. You just need the customers, and you haven't really thought too much about marketing. Now, the good thing is your friendly Menulog rep comes in and he says, you know what, let's run a series of campaigns and we'll get a whole heap of online orders for you. And the tap is turned on. A whole heap of orders come in. It's really fantastic. There's some discounting going on, but don't worry too much about that because there's a whole heap of orders coming on. Everyone is flat out. The kitchen's flat out. Front of house is flat out. You're flat out. This is great. This is the restaurant that you always wanted to have. No time to do anything else because you're just so busy trying to keep up with the orders. And then, a couple of months down the track, the cash is a little bit tight, but, the kitchen is pumping and there's so many orders coming in. So you just keep on going. And then money's really tight. And then, you're going to have to stop and do something. So you actually have a look at the books and you think, oh my God, we're losing money. We are flat out and we are losing money. And that's when you realize that it's very difficult to run a profitable restaurant when you're being charged these exorbitant commissions. Now, you try and negotiate with them. It's very difficult. You can't get the commission rates down. And unfortunately, you're going to have to close your restaurant. And that's really sad. 2 or 3 months later, a new restaurant opens. They're really quiet. But that's okay because the friendly Menulog guy is there. And the circle of life kind of continues on. And I think that this is the really big problem because fundamentally, I don't think there's anyone who thinks in the restaurant industry that 13% commission, or if it's 16%, is sustainable, and neither the 35% that the delivery guys are doing, at least they're taking care of the delivery component of it, which is a significant issue of it. But most restaurant operators would agree that it's really difficult to run a profitable restaurant when you've got those kind of costs coming straight off the top just for taking an order. So that makes it very difficult. And I think that these commission levels are really unsustainable. Next one. Now, I think that this is a Menulog specific one, domain squatting. So we talked about the websites that they build. What they'll do is they'll register a domain for you. Now, if you don't have a website, they'll register the website for you, which is very good of them. That's very helpful, isn't it? But it's registered in their name. It's not on your behalf. It's registered in their name. And it is very difficult to get that transferred across. And so multiple restaurants have had significant issues with trying to get the domains brought across. And so they're effectively, I would have thought it's domain squatting. Realistically, I'm not sure what right they have to register these domains in the first place. If it was done in the name of the restaurant, I think that might be a little bit different. But the technical contact is always Menulog. So to get anything done, it has to be done through Menulog. And that makes it really hard to be able to get to be able to transfer it to another website or something. We see this all the time. And you know what? It's one of my personal gripes. There's people out there who want to move to a free online ordering system, and Menulog do everything that they can to sort of delay that process because they're making money, they're collecting email addresses. Really quite sad and scary. But you've got to remember the power that domain name has, because it enables the online aggregator, whoever it is that does this, to sit in between the restaurant and their customer, charge that big fat juicy commission, and collect those emails. That's a really big thing. And the next one is email addresses. Oh, before we finish off with domain squatting, you want to check to see what other domains are out there. So what Menulog's standard practice is if you've already got a domain, so myrestaurant.com, in Australia it's .com.au, they will register myrestaurantsuburbname.com. So it tends to be a little bit better in SEO. We think having a suburb name in there is actually really good for SEO. And then they go back to the restaurant and say, look at all of this marketing we're doing. It's people who think that they're still ordering directly from the restaurant, which is really quite sad. I'm not a lawyer. I would have thought it was a bit misleading and deceptive myself, but it may or may not be. I have grave concerns, though, about the economic rights of the restaurants. And you've got to remember, some of the restaurants don't speak English that well. I don't think anyone's really got the time to go and read through all of those big, long contracts. These are the contracts put in front of them by a really big restaurant who says that they're there to try and help them. Maybe, maybe not. Email addresses, that's the next one that we want to talk about. They're collecting the email address, and they say that they can't share it with you because of privacy concerns, which is quite funny because they actually send the mobile number through so that you can deconflict any order or delivery type issue that you've got, but they won't give the email address. And that is purely and simply because of the fact that they don't want you to have it. They want to build their brand. They want to control that conversation. The last thing in the world that they want happening is a restaurant doing their own marketing, going out and speaking to their own customers, running their own deals, all of those sort of things. That's why they keep the email address, because if some takeaway customers, they could be worth $10,000. They're worth a lot, something to think about. Variable commission promotions. Now, this is a really, really interesting one. So Menulog, in some respects, has become quite a bit like Groupon. They'll run these. You can appear higher in the app if you pay higher commission to Menulog. That's one thing that they do. They'll run promotions in a suburb where you've got to offer a percentage off discount to the customer. No one's forcing you to do this, but if you aren't in it, then all of their marketing will be pushing customers towards the restaurants that are doing it. And let's face it, if they're running a 35% off campaign, most people are going to think about trying a different Indian restaurant or a different Chinese restaurant or a different pizza restaurant to the one that they would normally go with. I think that's kind of a no-brainer. This is why allowing that email address to bleed out, this has got to be the biggest cause of decreasing customer loyalty in the restaurant industry as a whole. So people need to think about the offers that are going out to those email addresses, because they'll send out offers to restaurants in the area, the same cuisine, because they're prepared to pay a higher commission. One piece of advice that I give to restaurant owners, which some of them find actually really quite confronting, is sign up for a Gmail account and then make an order at your restaurant using that Gmail account, and then just see what sort of offers come through, because that account is just a customer of that restaurant, and that's all that Menulog knows about you. So see what offers come out, and that can be a really interesting experiment and quite frightening too. Now, vertical integration, this is one that is really interesting, and this is more for the delivery guys. So we haven't talked too much about the UberEats and the Deliveroos of the world, Food Panda, and it's interesting to see Grab getting in on it. We use Grab quite a bit while we were traveling around Asia, and it'll be interesting to see how they go and whether they have a little bit more of an ethical business model or whether they're going to be doing the same sort of thing as the other guys. But they've opened up in quite a few countries, which is going to be interesting to see. The vertical integration story goes like this. I've heard from multiple restaurant owners that the guys at sometimes Uber Eats, but particularly Deliveroo, are asking all sorts of questions about how a kitchen runs. Not related to online orders, not related to delivery, just how does a kitchen run? And the fear is that what they want to do is to take the information, to take the massive database that they're building. Let's just say you had a 10-year plan for your business. We're going to build a massive database. We're going to build a database so that we know every type of cuisine in an area, who likes it, who doesn't, how often everyone orders. If you had that and then decided to start cooking that cuisine yourself, let's do it out of a factory kitchen because that's going to keep your costs down, or Deliveroo Editions. That might be a little bit interesting, out of a shipping container, very low leasing costs, and have a very streamlined, big business type approach to the way that's cooked, the way that you hire, the way that you source all your ingredients, the way that training is done, all of those sort of things. You could build quite a powerful business from that. And this is what some people are starting to think is, are they giving away too much intellectual property, partially in their customers' contact details, but also the way that they run their kitchens, and are they actually training up the people who are going to take over from them, the people who are going to take their businesses away from them? So that's vertical integration. Now, we're not seeing any of that yet. I think it's a fundamental risk. These companies are either venture capital funded or listed on the stock exchange. That means that you are guaranteed of one thing, and that is they must grow revenue and profitability. Otherwise, it's very difficult for them to get further funding. Their share price goes down. All sorts of bad things happen when they're not growing rapidly. So they're going to get to a point where they're delivering to everyone who orders. What will be the next step to drive that? And I would have thought maybe they don't want to deliver every meal that gets ordered online. Maybe they want to cook it too. I could be wrong. I think it's probably the way that eventually it will have to go. Now, franchise customers. So we're seeing a trend where some of the big chains are moving towards using delivery companies and online ordering companies. So in Australia, Menulog started working with Red Rooster and Pizza Hut. When that first happened, I thought that was really interesting about Pizza Hut. Pizza Hut used to be a powerhouse in Australia a long time ago. It's certainly fallen a long way. I mean, the guys at Domino's, whatever you think about them, they're pretty smart pizza makers. Pretty smart, and they would be the last people that you'd want to really compete with, franchise to franchise or chain to chain. That would be really, really tough. I was actually surprised to see them using Menulog, and it was like, wow, they must be really desperate, because I would have thought the big guys would have just built their own online ordering platforms. And the Morgan and Stanley report really talks about that, the fact that it's probably, for the chains, that would be the thing that they'd want to be looking at. And of course, it's really important to remember that Domino's in Australia is the dominant online ordering company, with probably just under 50% of it. Some interesting things that they do, but they're the smartest guys when it comes to online ordering. Everyone else is sort of nipping at their heels. Now, why is it a problem if big chains are in these platforms? Well, they're the ones with the big marketing budgets. They're the ones with the clout. If you're a single location restaurant and there is a chain with 1,000 stores, who do you think the online aggregator is going to want to look after better? Who do you think? I think it might be the big company. Just saying. So are we going to see less concern given to and, potentially routing of orders away from your local independents through to the big chains. I think that this is an area that needs to be watched really carefully. Now, branding. This is a really interesting thing. So in Australia, we see all the time Menulog have been very aggressive with trying to create the verb Menulog. So they did a whole campaign around just Menulog it. And I am always amazed at how much restaurant owners are prepared to sacrifice their own brand in the face of someone else. So they'll have the order from Menulog. They do these crazy awards things. Oh, look, we're the best restaurant of its type in this suburb. You might be the only one, but you still won the award. That doesn't matter. So there's a big fat branding thing on the window of the restaurant. That branding goes all the way through to the emails that they collect, the emails that they send out, and the way that they're really trying to minimize the effect of the brand of your restaurant. So when you have a look at the websites that they build, they're very bland. They all say the exact same thing. No phone number, of course, because we don't want anyone talking directly to a restaurant. But there's no ability to really tell your story. What is it that makes your food unique? And I'm actually quite happy that one of the podcasts that I thought was going to be pretty dry, which was about intellectual property, your story and how to protect it. That was actually one of our most popular podcasts from last year. Everyone needs to be thinking about when you're using an online aggregator, they're working against you from telling your story. There's no space for your voice, for your food to really speak on your behalf. And that's sad. And of course, it pushes price down. They don't want high prices because they want people to order more often. And one of the things I find really interesting is as this branding takes up, we've seen people complaining about the food that Menulog produces. Menulog actually never produced anything, but they'll say, the Menulog food is no good. Well, that wasn't Menulog food. That was a restaurant, but Menulog has done such a good job of creating that branding that people don't actually understand now that there's a restaurant behind it. There's a restaurant that employs local people, hardworking restaurant owners. They're cut out of the entire story. It's just Menulog. It's gone so far that Menulog actually won an award for best food delivery service. I actually hit them up and said, just exactly how many orders has Menulog ever delivered? And there was this long-winded answer about, blah, 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 blah. But the award for the best delivery service, they've never delivered anything. It's been hardworking restaurant owners all around the country who've been delivering that food day in, day out. And of course, Menulog's there to win the accolade, which I think is absolutely crazy. And it just shows how dangerous this brand building campaign can be for them. Now, the other thing that's interesting, and a lot of restaurant owners are talking about, is the dangers to a brand when you're using one of the delivery companies. So something like an UberEats or a Deliveroo. One restaurateur who I speak to, moderately frequently, says one of the things that he likes to do is to order from them every couple of weeks just to make sure that the quality control's there, check on the times, things like that. It hasn't been uncommon for him to get food an hour late. And he had one instance where someone, as they were going through his gate, the pizza fell out. One of the slices of pizza fell out on the ground. She picked it up and put it back in. And she said, don't eat that slice there. It fell on the ground. I'm happy to buy you a new pizza. Please just rate me a 5. Please don't tell the online ordering company. Because she was worried about losing her job. Now, this is quite dodgy. And of course, you see issues. There was one last week about a delivery driver who was eating the food. They take a few chips on the way through, whatever it is that they do. These are people that you don't hire. They're fundamentally important to the experience that the customer gets. You've got no control over how long it takes for the food to get there. And this is one of the things that I find fascinating. UberEats and Deliveroo talk about how good they are at getting the food there. A lot of people talk about how long it takes for the food to get there. How often, it'd be interesting to see what the SLAs are on delivery times or service level agreements. I'd be interested to know how many take 15 minutes, how many take 30 minutes, how many take an hour. I see it on Twitter, people saying that it's taken them an hour and a half or 2 hours to get food. That's crazy. So there is a brand risk when you're using these delivery companies. So what does the future hold as for the online ordering industry? Now, I think there's a couple of factors that are at play here. The first is, for all of the guys doing delivery, we've got the elephant in the room is, are they contractors or are they employees? The Morgan & Stanley article said that Uber Eats driver in Australia, and they're probably riders, earns between $12 and $18 an hour, which is And that's before taking into account the cost of fuel, insurance, and vehicle maintenance. So 2 to 3 deliveries an hour, $6 delivery fees. That's how they came up with that figure. Now, $12 to $18 an hour before taking in fuel, insurance, and vehicle maintenance. This is why they're all riders, Morgan and Stanley. I'm not sure why you didn't pick up on that, but they're bike riders. They can't afford. If you were paying for fuel out of that and insurance, that'd be absolutely madness. Now, this falls, even then, even if they are pocketing at the top of the margin, $18 an hour, that's well short of the $25.10 for adult casuals, which they are. If they were employed, they'd be casuals. So I think that as this becomes more of a thing, as it becomes more popular, there's going to be more and more scrutiny around the returns that people get. And I think that that's going to create a big problem, whether they're going to have to put the prices up at 35%. And, restaurants are already... We've spoken to restaurants who have pulled out of Uber Eats because they just can't make money out of it. There are people who won't go into it because at 35%, they realise it's absolutely madness. This is a big problem. It's a big chunk of change. Out of $100 worth of orders, to lose $35, you're probably spending $25 on food. So you're now down to $40. In Australia, that's probably your wages bill, 40%. So there's nothing for lease, marketing, all of your other costs, and there's certainly no profit. It's a big drama. So wages for contractors for delivery, I think this is going to be an interesting thing. So for the online delivery guys, the Uber Eats and all of those, I think Uber Eats' play is fairly clear. And that is that they will move into self-driving vehicles as quickly as they can. I think they're developing the database, they're developing the algorithms, they're doing the mapping, they're doing all of the things that they need to do now so that when they have the ability to do the self-driving vehicles, then Uber will get rid of the Uber drivers and Uber Eats will get rid of the Uber riders. And who knows, potentially prices will come down. I also think that drones, it could go the way of the drones. So if that happens, potentially a restaurant may own their own drones. That's the way I would like to see it. Just a little bit of software, you put the address in and off the drone goes. It would be super quick. You'd only need a couple of drones. You're probably looking at, it might be less than a $10,000 investment, which would be less than a vehicle, and you've got no costs of someone out of the restaurant. So someone potentially front of house could be just punching that information in, filling up a drone, and off it flies. It's a couple of years away, but I think that that's definitely one of the things that could happen. And if it doesn't go the way of the drone, it will go the way of the self-driving vehicle. And we think the vehicle will pull up out the front, you'll get an SMS or some sort of notification through the app, you'll go along, and it'll either be some sort of Bluetooth, near-field communications, you'll enter a PIN, something like that, and a little compartment will open up and you'll take your food out. That's not that far away. We're also seeing restaurants who are, starting to make that move into logistics. Traditionally, restaurants have been food businesses. We're seeing some restaurants that are run as logistics businesses that produce food. I also think that there's going to be a lot more work around producing the logistics for a restaurant to be able to do that. It's very difficult because of the fact that it's very peaky business. So you might be doing 50% of your revenue in 8 hours on a Friday and Saturday night. How do you manage that? And there's a few ways around it. Scooters, battery-powered scooters, I think is potentially going to be a big area, particularly if you're in a place where a dense urban environment where you can service a large market without having to travel too far. Electric scooters could be a big thing there. We're seeing restaurants choosing to go off-grid, so completely dropping all of them, running their own online ordering system, and running their own marketing. And that can be really successful for people, particularly if you accept the fact that there was a 13% cost that goes in there and you put 6% away as a marketing fee, and that becomes your Facebook budget, and 7% goes in your pocket as extra wages so that, you can start running that profitable business. We're seeing that work quite successfully for some restaurants. We're also seeing an increase in pickup-only online ordering. This gets rid of the whole headache of, oh God, now I've got to deliver the food, make it pick up, drive people to pick up. If the food is good enough, you will pick it up. We wanted to try a new Indian restaurant on Friday night. We got all the way to the bottom. It was partially because it was an Indian restaurant that we hadn't tried before, and it was partially because they were using an online ordering system that we hadn't used before. And it's sad, but we're connoisseurs of online ordering systems, which I know is really warped. But the thing that was really amazing, we got all the way to the end. Everyone was excited about what they were going to get. They had a few things that were interesting, and it was like, yes, this is going to be really cool. They don't deliver. We got all the way through that process and we don't deliver. It was just like, whoa, that's crazy. That should have been right up front. And it should have been right up front because I'm a lazy person, and I was driving home and I was about 100 meters away from home. If we knew that it was pick up, then I would have stayed at work for another 20 minutes and I would have driven by and picked it up. It was only slightly out of my way. But they lost that order and we're going to have to time that another time to make that pickup. I think there is space, and I know some people are really interested in pickup only. There's no one out of the restaurant doing that delivery. One of the things that we're seeing people doing a lot more is running their own loyalty campaigns. And I know, so Menulog dropped their menu loyalty campaign, and they had some reason for it. I can't remember what it was. I think they said that no one was doing it or something crazy like that. I think what it was is that part of Menulog's power is the ability to shift orders around. At the start of the week, they can say, okay, these guys are paying more commission. Let's get as many orders we can through them rather than putting them somewhere else. Now, when you've got a loyalty campaign, and the one that I like is, buy X and get X plus one order free. So if you're ordering $100 each time, it might be order 7, get the 8th one free. It works out as a bit of a discount. It works really powerfully, though, for customer retention. These are loyal customers, particularly when the email says, thank you for ordering from us. This is your 3rd order. You're only 3 more orders away from getting your loyalty discount. Your loyalty discount currently is standing at $50. Now, people, I know, and because people put it on social media. I'm only $12 away from my loyalty discount, or hooray, tonight is free food at my favourite Chinese restaurant. So this is one of the things that I think people are going to be driving a lot towards. Things like, which is why we put that into Frollo, because it's such a powerful marketing tool for you, that's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to help individual restaurants. We're not trying to increase the number of orders that we get. We're trying to increase the number of orders that you get. And I think that we're going to see a divergence in restaurants. We've been talking about this for a while, and it's becoming increasingly stark. To make money, to be profitable in an environment where your brand is muted, where you can't tell your story, the only thing that you've really got to compete on is price. And that drives the price, becomes a race for the bottom. So we're seeing more and more restaurants who are changing portion sizes, changing the recipe, changing the ingredients to be able to cut those costs to the bone to try and get the turnover that they need to try and be profitable. Some restaurants are successful moving away from that. We're going to charge this much for it. Well, and people say, wow, that's expensive. You should try it though. And you taste it and you go, wow, that's really good. Now, the interesting thing is that we know that a lot of people are bargain seekers, but they will gravitate towards the food is less important to them. It's more about getting the meal. For the people who want the quality food, they will be prepared to pay that premium. That's where the people are actually making money in online ordering. And I'm reminded of something that I was told 6 or 7 years ago when I started in restaurant marketing. And I was at an awards ceremony and it was really exciting. We were talking to people and there was a guy from Perth there. We were in Melbourne and I introduced myself and he goes, oh, James, and he introduced himself and he was one of our customers. And so we had a really, really good chat about the restaurant industry. And he said, the important thing to remember, James, is that the restaurant industry is an amazing industry full of amazing people. It's just the bottom 10% that wreck it for everyone. They're the guys who are never going to be able to run a restaurant, and they're the guys who will be couponing, they'll be discounting, they'll be doing all of those things that make it really difficult for everyone else. And he said that you can walk into a restaurant and you just know that they're never going to survive, but they're the ones with the 50% off coupon, and they'll be around for 6 months. And when they leave, there'll be another equally crap restaurant spring up somewhere else. So that people are always thinking about, wow, I could go somewhere else and get a meal. And it drags the price down that people are prepared to pay for food. And it makes it difficult for the 90% of people who are running great restaurants with great food and providing people with great experiences to be profitable. So I've jibber-jabbed on for about 3/4 of an hour. Obviously, there's the obligatory, everyone should use Frollo, the free restaurant online ordering system. My thing first off is not everyone should. It's not right for everyone. It doesn't do everything that some people want. We're always keen to find out what new features we can put in there. The other thing that really does people's head in is I'll often say, you should be using Menulog or UberEats. The thing that I would do though is, in the bag that goes out, say, order direct from us and save. So use Menulog for what they're meant to be doing, which is providing you with incremental customers, and then try and convert them to your customer. Because if you're not getting that email address, then they're just clearly not your customer. So if you haven't had a look at Frollo, check it out. We are actually experimenting with putting a free website in and charging 7% commission. Of course, the emails go into the free restaurant CRM system, which enables you to email out and gives you much more viable communication with your customers. Of course, for everyone who's got their own website, then it's free. And it really is amazing the amount of money that people are saving on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, or on an annual basis. The amazing thing is that you save that money, but you're collecting those email addresses. And I've got to tell you, how much easier is it to market a restaurant when you've got an email database from 5,000 people who've eaten awesome food that's come from your restaurant? That is a piece of cake. And when you've got those kind of numbers, you potentially could send out an email that brings in $20,000 worth of revenue. Giddy up, $20,000 worth of revenue. That's pretty exciting because a lot of that is going to fall to the bottom line. It's that incremental revenue that makes the really big hit to your bottom line. So have a look at it. We're just about to introduce SMS confirmations, which is something that a few people have been after for a while. If you haven't checked out the Mobile Orders Manager, that's a really slick bit of software. We're super proud of that. So you can run your kitchen, run all of your online orders on your mobile phone, which makes it nice and easy, and feeds into a free CRM system. So it's a pretty cool system. Have a really good think about online ordering, about the companies that you're working with, because it is one of the sad parts about working in our job is you talk to people and sometimes they come in and they're just dead man walking, and it's like you've only got 2 weeks worth of revenue left, or there is no magic solution to this. And it's just gone on for too long, and they've lost too much money, they've lost too many customers, and it becomes irretrievable. And the sad thing is, yes, the restaurant closed down. That was someone's dream, that was someone's life. And it's particularly sad when it's been, it's been their business for 10 or 15 years and they just haven't kept up with what's changed. That's really sad to see. So have a think about it. If you've got any questions, hit us up on LinkedIn or Facebook. We're doing more and more work on LinkedIn, which is really exciting to see. And yeah, happy to help anyone else. As I say, Frollo's not right for everyone, but for those people who it is right for, and as I said, use a blended approach. Use anything that you can do to get a new customer. You've got to fight for them these days. Very infrequently do they just walk in the door without any work whatsoever. You've got to be putting in the hard yards. I think everyone agrees on that. That's about it. I've talked for far too long. Have a glorious day. Hopefully it's super busy and super profitable for you. Alrighty, bye.
Want more customers for your restaurant, cafe or takeout? Every month, our marketing tools and information are used by thousands of restaurant owners just like you to help them find more customers and turn them into repeat customers. All of our tools and information is designed specifically for restaurant owners. We know you don't have a lot of time to spend marketing or learning complicated procedures, so our tools are quick and easy to use. If you're looking to increase your revenue and profits or want to work less hours, check out marketingforrestaurants.com.